1 hour away from Major League Baseball lock on this Saturday afternoon. So happy to be with you as always. I'm taking the hosting reins today. That would be myself, Justin Van Zuden, STL Cardinals 84. I have two sharp minds alongside to help break down this Saturday afternoon of baseball. Tim Buell on one side. Tim, how's it going?
Doing well, Justin. I haven't seen you, I think, in a few months. Happy to see you after tax season.
Crawled out.
That's right. Happy to break down some baseball with you. Happy to see Will, as always. I see him quite often on the weekends.
For sure. Yeah, I'll get thrown into the weekend mix with you guys, so I'm sure I'll be seeing you a lot more. And Will and I have done a couple shows the last couple weekends. I think we've been on occasionally together. So, Chief, what's up?
Nothing much. Doing good. Very, very exciting slate. I know we were talking pre-show about the big difference between the sites over the weekend, and needless to say, I will only be playing DraftKings today. What an interesting time it is for Major League Baseball DFS and how these sites decide to do something. But not to put a Debbie Downer on it, but still excited to play. It's a good little slate, I think, even losing that one game on the front end.
Yeah, I mean, FanDuel has actually been consistent about including the Coors Field games on Sundays when the Rockies are at home, even with their weird start time. FanDuel usually adds the Coors games onto the main slates on Sundays. I'm sure we'll see that tomorrow, and DraftKings usually does not. But today, with the large day slate, FanDuel has split that up into two separate slates, and the Coors game is actually on neither of them, which is a little bit strange. So we've got like two 4-game slates, I think, on FanDuel, but for ease of discussion, we'll just cater this to the DraftKings slate today. There were 10 afternoon games. The Yankees game, which was the first game to start, has been postponed due to expected inclement weather. So they will have a doubleheader tomorrow in New York. So just make sure if you were rostering anybody from the Blue Jays or the Yankees, that you get those guys out of your lineups. As for other weather concerns, mainly just chilly temperatures that Roth has noted on the weather page today. 40 degrees-ish in Cleveland. They're playing a doubleheader after last night's game got rained out. 50 degrees-ish in Detroit. They're playing a doubleheader after last night's game got rained out. Yellow for some potential late rain in Colorado for the Coors game. But Roth believes that the game is at least likely to finish regardless. Very cold in Chicago with the winds blowing in again today, and then a couple other spots with maybe just a few showers, but nothing significant. So every other game should play other than the New York game, which has already been postponed, again, leaving us with 9 games on the afternoon slate. Nice little mix of pitching and hitting, I think, on the slate today. Tim, I'll throw it to you first. Anything from the high-level view that you want to discuss before we dive into pitching?
Yeah, well, I was going to start with discussing a pitcher in terms of a macro thing here. Hunter Greene is going to be a really, really interesting player today. I think he is going to come in with quite a bit of ownership, and he is simming absolutely outstanding. I got to 89% of him in a 150 set of Sims. So Sims really wants you to get overweight him. And like you mentioned in your article, Justin, and you're covering the basis article, premium on RG, his type of skill set should factor in better in a Coors game. That being said, I think he's going to end up being mega chalk. So I think how we play Hunter Greene is going to be extremely important on the slate. And do we want to play a super chalky pitcher in Coors Field? I think that's going to be like one of the most important, if not the most important, overarching question of the slate.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you just look at the current hitters that the Rockies have, and that offense is just horrible. I mean, I had just stumbled across a clip on YouTube from like the very first home game that the Rockies ever had at Coors. They played at the old Denver Broncos stadium for a few years before they opened Coors Field. And like the lineup that they had those of you that are in your 20s or whatever won't recognize a lot of these names, but if you're in your late 30s or 40s or whatever, they had that very first season at Coors Field. They had like Andre Scalaraga and Dante Bichette and Larry Walker, and they just had all these guys that just mashed home runs in Coors Field. And now you basically got a collection of stiffs. No offense. I mean, they're much better at the game of baseball than I am, but relative to most Major League Baseball teams, it's just, you're trotting out Kyle Farmer hitting third a lot of nights, and it's just not a super talented offense. But then you have the park factor that's just going to make the Rockies an interesting discussion a lot of nights. So yeah, we'll dive into Greene here in a minute and the rest of the pitchers. But Will, anything else off the top for you?
Yeah, I think I was kind of talking about this pre-show too. I just feel like a lot of good offenses are in colder weather spots, if you will. I think I'll leave it at that. And I think for me, it's just trying to decide, the balance between that versus some of these offenses that are in better weather spots, i.e. the Coors game. And, so that's kind of where I am. A lot of the offense that I really like, just they're in cold weather right now. And, I'll kind of make a determination, as we get closer. Like I'm going to be building during the show today. I have settled in on my pitchers for what it's worth, but in terms of stats, I'll probably be building during the show. I've got one team for sure that I'm going to play, and then everything else is kind of contingent on, how it fits within my lineup.
All right. With that, let's go ahead and dive into the pitching slate where, Tim, you already kind of mentioned Hunter Greene, the other high-end options that we need to kind of discuss around him. Really just two guys priced above him on DK, which would be Jesus Luzardo, who's been great for Philly. You've got really good pitching conditions in Chicago today. The total in that game is 7 runs. We saw a 4-0 game there yesterday. I know the Cubs have been great, but Luzardo's been really good as well. We've got Sonny Gray pitching against the Brewers today, and then Greene are your 3 most expensive guys on DraftKings. So how are you handling it, and how are you attacking pitcher today? Some interesting cheap names too.
Yeah, so Jesus Luzardo is probably the most skilled pitcher on the slate, like you mentioned. Fantastic season so far. Only one real dud so far this season. Pitching in Wrigley, amazing pitching weather in the most wind-sensitive park in all of baseball. Only projected for 17% ownership, which is half of Hunter Greene's ownership, similar to guys that are cheaper than him. So I don't think Luzardo is going to end up being super, super popular. It's just his price. Like, he's priced correctly, in my opinion. I don't think he's coming at any kind of discount at all. He's 9.9. And I think that just kind of the way that I'm building, the way that I'm seeing some stuff in Sims right now, I want to prioritize like allocating my resources to hitting. So unless you're playing just cash, like I think in cash, you're probably playing Luzardo, but in single entry and larger field GPPs, I think I want to go elsewhere. I really like the looks of getting to the pitcher on the other side of this game, and that's Ben Brown at 7,500. He is looking, I mean, he's clearly not as skilled as Jesus Luzardo. It's not even close, but he is $2,400 cheaper. He does have the same ballpark factor. He's going to be around the same projected ownership as Luzardo. So you're not like, he's not going to be chalky either. So I in GPPs, I like getting to Ben Brown actually over Jesus Luzardo. But like you said, I mean, this game has a super, super low total. So, I mean, maybe fading Luzardo is not correct, but I think that in like a 3 max or single entry, that's what I'm going to be doing, is not playing Luzardo, and probably going to be looking at going like Hunter Greene and Ben Brown. You did mention Sonny Gray in your Covering the Bases article today. Yeah, I mean, he's fine. 9,300. I don't hate the play. Like you said, people were worried about his velocity in spring training, but he was just having a bad case of the flu. So he seems to be back at it. But again, he's 9,300. I'd rather play Hunter Greene. I think I'd also still like to play Ben Brown. The only other pitcher that I'm considering is Kikuchi at 8,100 against the Twins. I do like him quite a bit. He's kind of the only other SB2 that I'm considering over Ben Brown. So I may be going Hunter Greene, Kikuchi, or Hunter Greene and Ben Brown. I guess in large field GPPs, Clay Holmes is okay, but I'm not. I don't know. Like I still think that I want to get more exposure to Ben Brown.
Right as of the time we came on the air, the fourth round of the NFL draft started. So we'll see if Shedeur Sanders gets drafted before the show ends. That can be the sweat for now. I'll keep an eye on the draft tracker. We'll pass it along if he does. Dual purpose today because the Shedeur Sanders saga has taken over social media the last couple of nights. So yeah, I'll keep an eye on that. But Will, what are you doing a pitcher today?
I will be in the Hunter Greene camp. I just think, 8,900. If I was playing mass multi-entry today, I'd probably be overweight. So that's where I stand. I do like Kikuchi at 8,100. I was pulling up, and I know I don't switch over to full season numbers right away, but I do. As we get a little further in, we're over a month now. I start kind of peaking, just to kind of get a feel on where these teams may be right now. And man, once again, limited plate appearances, but Minnesota seems to be struggling out of the gate here against lefties on the current season. If you combine it with last season, it's still not great. Like last season, there's still some guys that had some struggles. So I think Kikuchi has a shot here. His K rate is down on the season compared to last season so far, but did want to mention that I agree with Tim here. I think Kikuchi is really close to being, a really nice tournament upside play here, and not even close. I think he's a great tournament upside play. Let me just say that, especially if these numbers hold firm in limited plate appearances, admittedly. Additionally, how do you? Here's my question for you, Cards. And this is about Luzardo, or Cards and Tim, and I'll continue my conversation here. But to me, this is like, two forces coming against each other, right? Great weather, like everything points in his favor. K rate through the roof this season. Chicago suddenly can hit everything. And so, as the most expensive pitcher at 9,900, I'm looking at ownership here, and I'm like, well, his ownership's, at least right now, much lower than Sonny Gray, slightly lower than Sonny Gray, much lower than Hunter Greene. I mean, Jeffrey Springs has more ownership than him, and so does Kikuchi. Ben Brown, is going to have more ownership. Clay Holmes is close. It feels like Luzardo is just kind of even in the best pitching weather, the odd man out. So it feels like the best tournament play on the board. Just want to pick you guys' brains about Luzardo real quick, because I think that might be a pivotal spot on this slate where we're spinning all the way up and everybody just kind of hits the mid-range, and then Luzardo goes out here and puts up a 40 burger. Just want to get you guys' thoughts. I do think this is a good leverage play, if you will.
Yeah, I'm on him because I'm somewhat biased because I think I've bet his over strikeouts in like every start, and he's
probably hit all of them except one.
I think he missed one, he's been going deep into games. I mean, they're letting him get close to 100 pitches, and I've been to Wrigley, man, when that wind is blowing in and it's like 20 miles an hour and it's like 40 degrees and it is just freaking cold. And it's got to be almost impossible to hit. I mean, the Phillies didn't score. Yesterday's game was 4-0, and that was Taijuan Walker and Colin Ray, for gosh sakes. I mean, now you got Luzardo out there, and I know the Cubs are, have been great offensively, but it's just going to be super tough conditions to hit. Now, if you're stacking the Reds, if you're stacking the Mets, you're probably not getting to Luzardo, but I do like some of the cheaper stacks today, and so in those stacks, I've got the money to get him. And that, because he's going to be at least somewhat contrarian at 9,900, Yeah, I've got it. Now you're not going to be able to stack them with all the Reds, but in the lineups that you're not, I'm good with Luzardo today. So, Tim, anything else to add on that? And I'll go back to Will for some more pitching takes.
Personally, I'm out on Luzardo outside of cash games just because I want to allocate my resources to these premium bats. I have no issue with Luzardo as a pitcher overall. I just like the line of construction of going cheaper at pitching.
That's fair. Yeah, totally fair take. And I'm in on Kikuchi as well. I mean, with those Twins numbers being pretty laughable against lefties. Clay Holmes had a really poor projection earlier in the day. Looks like we've come up a little bit on that, but I thought our numbers were a bit light on him to start the day. Big strikeouts there. He's been walking a lot of guys, but I like the potential upside. And, down there, Tim already mentioned Brown. You've got Robbie Ray down there as well. Tanner Houck finally showed some signs in his last start. But, Will, anything else? Anything on the cheap front for you at pitcher?
I mean, if you want to call Clay Holmes cheap because he's under 8,800, I think he's my guy today. Once again, man, Brown and Luzardo clearly best pitching weather on the slate. I still think I'm going to side with Holmes because I tend to trust the strikeout rate. Probably a bit more than a few other factors that I use, but I trust the strikeouts here. Washington, another team that doesn't strike out a ton, but I'm okay with it with Holmes at 7,800. So he's probably my cheap pitcher if I go that route. Right now, I am actively trying to get Luzardo and Greene for what it's worth.
We do have a question in chat about Tyler Mahle. I think he's just priced too high for what he is. I know he's been really good this season, but I think he's also been kind of lucky. And now I think he's too expensive. What do you guys think about Mahle today?
Man, I mean, I think a couple years ago, what he's doing today is what we thought he was going to be. When he was with the Reds, he was with who else was he with? But anyway, I mean, on the season, he's only at 24%. He's just at 28% to lefties, 21% to righties. I think long term he turns into a pumpkin at some point. I agree. It's too expensive.
The BABIP luck has been very much in his favor to start the year so far. And for producer Steve, we do have somebody in the Discord chat saying that the audio is not on the RG app. I don't know how that all works, so that's my duty. I've passed it along, and hopefully somebody smarter than me can take care of that. So, all right. I think we've probably covered pitching pretty good. Let's go ahead and turn our attention to the bats on the slate today. Again, we're down to 9 games. If you're just tuning in, the Yankees game has been postponed. Make sure you are not rostering any Blue Jays or Yankees in your lineups today. The Yankees would have been fairly popular, so just make sure you are getting them out of your lineups. All right. Will, I'll go to you first for some stacks. What are you looking at for offenses to target today?
Once again, I talked about this cold weather, but I'm treating Tanner Houck like he's just awful right now. He's had one good game, but man, lefty's still been able to get to him. I do like Cleveland. They're just in cold weather. I like the Tigers. They're also in slightly cold weather, but got a little bit of wind. Supposed to be blowing out there today. So the Tigers are a team that I like. Cousin Quinn, listen, guys, it's been just bad since he's come to the league with Pittsburgh. Now he's with the Brewers. Cards, St. Louis, run totals low. I don't care. It's Cousin Quinn. We have to attack that spot. So really like him. You guys know I don't typically play Coors Field.
Who are we attacking, Chief?
Cousin Quinn.
All right. Yeah, I was just going to say, you can't trust those guys with that last name.
Yeah, Cousin Quinn. I don't usually play Coors, man, but this is probably a really good spot for the Reds. I don't think I'm going to end up there for what it's worth, but that's another really good spot. And then I do really like the Mets, but they're definitely going to pick up some ownership today. But I still think this is a great spot to attack.
All right, Tim, what do you like for stacks today?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Reds are the top stack on the board, also going to be the highest owned. They have an over 6 implied team total in Coors Field, going against an absolutely horrible pitcher. So obviously, I love the Reds today. I think the Mets are going to be number 2 for me. They're obviously in a really good spot as well. So I obviously don't mind the Mets as like a pivot away from Coors, or you can add them in with your Coors Field stacks. I don't mind the Athletics. They have a really nice implied team total as well, and I think they're going to be really off the board today. So, I think they're a really strong pivot. I think they have a higher implied team total than the Mets do. So I think I do like them for GPPs. And then I think if you wanted to go, like completely off the board, I wouldn't mind, getting to some of this Angels and Twins game, just because I do think that it's going to be interesting to see kind of like what Kikuchi's ownership is, and obviously I wouldn't mind attacking was Richardson either. So I think that game has some large field GPP appeal for me.
Yeah, I kind of like the Angels a good bit myself. If you're looking to go off the board, agree with Will. I think the Cardinals are at least in the conversation today. They're pretty cheap. Again, in those lineups where I'm trying to get up to Luzardo at pitcher, you're not going to fit the Reds and the Mets, or probably even the Athletics, given how the top of their lineup is priced. So you're looking at teams like, the Angels outside of Trout are pretty cheap. The Cardinals are pretty cheap. I don't mind the Guardians. The Tigers, TJ's not here, so I got to pick up the resident Tigers love for the day. First game of that doubleheader. I think the Tigers.
The Tigers look good today. Seriously.
Yeah, I like the Tigers. I bet them to win today. So against a rookie pitcher that allowed, I think, 10 base runners in 4 innings in his first start. The other question.
I was going to say, do we have any interest in Boston going against Ben Lively? Getting some questions about that in chat. I'm not seeing anything like outstanding for them. They have an under 4 total, 3.75 total. It's not necessarily a spot I need to attack. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm neutral on Boston. I think they're fine as a more contrarian play, especially if you're not wanting to get Cincy or the Mets, who will have the higher ownership. So, Will, any takes on the Red Sox?
Lefties look good. I don't mind them against Live. I don't think I'm stacking them. Just kind of like I'm not stacking Cleveland, but I don't mind any one-offs that you like.
All right. The other, I guess, thought process would be you can always stack against Robbie Ray if you want to. The walks have been a problem again this year. The strikeouts have been down a bit. So Texas could be an interesting large field GPP stack. Probably not a single entry type of build, but don't mind throwing a few YOLO stacks in there against Robbie Ray when it's a good opponent. So, all right. Go ahead and go position by position, and then we will get to your questions. We'll get to some probably in the YouTube chat. I'm not going to open up the YouTube chat just yet because sometimes it does weird things to my microphone, but I will get there later on. I do have the Discord open, so easiest way to get your questions answered on the show, go to the RotoGrinders Discord. You can find links from our homepage, or just type in rotogrinders.com/Discord. You just need to have a free RotoGrinders membership to be able to get in there. You don't have to be a premium subscriber, though we would love to have you if you are interested and like what you see over at RotoGrinders. But rotogrinders.com/Discord. Live stream chat is the channel that we keep an eye on for questions on this show. And I do have that open. So if you want to get your questions answered right away, you can pop them in there. All right. Position by position. Tim, you won the lottery. You get to start with the catchers today. What do we like?
Yeah, so catcher is really just in stacks position for me today. I think if you're playing cash games, it might actually be Hunter Goodman, believe it or not, against Hunter Greene as your catcher at 4,200. Actually, we were talking about stacks. I don't mind getting to a little bit of Colorado just as leverage against Hunter Greene. So I don't mind that at all. I don't mind Brian Jeffers at 3,400 batting leadoff against Kikuchi. We discussed.
That's weird to see.
Yeah, I know. It
I
is
think
weird.
the last time I can remember seeing a catcher lead off is Jason Kendall. I know he did it a little while for the Pirates, but that was years ago. Like, catcher leading off is very strange.
Yes, it is very strange, but it's pretty nice for cash games at least. So I think he's a decent play. Oh, Darius Garland is out, by the way, for our NBA people.
We
got
all the sports on duty today.
Yep. I do like Logan O'Hoppe at 4,700 as like a one-off or as part of a mini Angels stack. And then Alvarez at 3K. I think he's okay as like a GPP pivot off of Jeffers. But I'm a little bit worried that the Mets are going to get steamed a bit. So I don't necessarily want to play Alvarez if we think he's going to be popular.
Yeah, I mean, I think ownership gets spread around enough to where nobody gets mega steamed up here, especially now that Jeffers is leading off. I think he'll take away some of the ownership that would have been on Alvarez. You've got Gary Sanchez in the lineup today for Baltimore at 2,200. So those guys will soak up a little bit more of the value ownership than maybe they would have earlier in the day. Will, catcher.
Yeah, catcher's always going to be mostly a part of my stack, and so Dylan Dingler is, going to probably hit my lineup today. I think I'm going to stack Detroit. I think I settled in on that even in the cold weather. Mr. Pages or Pages, depending on how you want to pronounce it, from the Cardinals. Definitely a guy, I think you look at. You got Alvarez from the Mets at 3K facing Brad Lord. Definitely think that's a good one. Tim mentioned the Athletics, but our good friend Shea Bangliers should be in the lineup today against Cannon. I definitely think he's a good one to target. Also, if you're stacking Cincinnati, maybe you get the Trevino. I mean, I think he's probably a bit too expensive for what I want to pay in terms of in the 9-hole, but once again, I'm playing Dylan Dingler, so I won't tell you to not play him. But yeah, that's mainly what I'm doing. All my guys are going to be in the stack.
All right, and the A's lineup actually just dropped. So Langoliers and Lawrence Butler are both not in the A's lineup today.
Once again, I didn't see that.
It just posted literally just now. So,
Gotcha.
It hadn't been out. So that's interesting because if you like the A's,
cheaper.
The stack just got a lot cheaper. If you don't like the A's, they're facing the White Sox. So I don't know. It takes a lot of the higher end bats out of that lineup. Not really sure how to make it just yet. I'm trying to we've got it. It came across in our projections, but I can't. There it is. Wilson is leading off at shortstop. Rooker, Soderstrom, Andujar is hitting cleanup. Blade, Urias, Kurtz, and Urshela and Pareda is catching. It's a really interesting lineup. We'll see how that comes out salary-wise once we get all the projections updated. But for what it's worth, that looks a lot different than what we would have seen with Langoliers and Butler in there. So
wow, Andujar batting cleanup.
Andujar is batting cleanup between Soderstrom and Blade. So they did pick the lineup out of a hat today. Apparently, what the A's did. All right, let's move to first base. Will, I'll keep it with you. What do you got there?
Yeah, first base is interesting for me today, Cards, because I think there are a lot of interesting cheap first basemen that I really like. So, when you look at this position, especially in terms of the stacks that I like, You're getting Contreras at 3,200 today. Now, once again, I'm not saying that he's been out here just destroying things, but cards, he's batting in the 2-hole. He's 3,200. This is fantastic. Definitely one of my favorites today. We're going out to Detroit. You got Spencer Torkelson at 4,500. He's a guy that I like. Even in that same game, I do like Ryan O'Hearn at 4,100. He's a guy that I like. You got Luzardo at 4,600. He's a guy that I like. I just think this position is really nice, top to bottom. I don't feel like you have to go all the way up today. Obviously, if I'm going all the way up, I'm probably playing Alonso for what it's worth at 5,500 because I do think the Mets are in a great spot. But once again, I think the cheap end first baseman today is actually pretty good.
Yeah, some interesting lower cost options here today, and then obviously, if you're playing the Reds and Coors, like Spencer Steer is one of the cheaper Cincinnati guys you can get today. So, Tim, what do you got at first base?
Yeah, Pete Alonso is definitely going to be your top end spend today. I don't think he's an absolute necessity, but he is definitely, I think, the top overall play, followed by Spencer Steer. Is Steer in the 8-hole? I haven't seen that lineup yet.
That's where we have him projected. I don't think that lineup has dropped yet.
Okay. So yeah, either way though, even if he's at the bottom, I think he's a fantastic play. We have $3,200 Wilson Contreras.
I stand corrected. Sorry, that came out a few minutes ago as well. Steer is batting 6. So Friedel, McLean, Dela Cruz, Hayes, Lux, Steer, Marte, Fraley, and Trevino, which, if I recall correctly, is the same lineup they tried out last night, except at catchers. So, which makes sense. They scored a bunch of runs. So Steer is hitting 6th.
Yeah, so Steer is probably going to be your cash game guy today, an absolute mainstay in that stack as well. So don't mind him at all. I don't mind Andrew Vaughn today, as weird as that sounds. At 3K, just as like a contrarian, cheaper piece. I also don't mind Spencer Torkelson at 4,800. I think he's going to go extremely low owned today. Yeah, and then I think really outside of those names, it's just going to be in my stacks.
Yeah, not as strong of a position as we sometimes see at the top of the board today. I mean, obviously, usually got guys like Bryce Harper, but he's in a tough matchup with the weather in Chicago today. And then some of the higher end first basemen are in the night slate tonight. So, yeah, Alonso and Torkelson probably your two plays if you've got the dollars to spend at the top. And that will go ahead and take us to second base. And I'll stick with you, Tim. What do you like at second today?
Yeah, so Matt McLean, definitely. I know he's super expensive, but I think he's actually kind of worth it today, just because the matchup is so good. So he's definitely somebody that I'm willing to spend up for. I see cards. You tagged Brendan Donovan against Cousin Priester at 4,300. I don't mind that at all. I know it sounds bad, but I don't mind Marcus Semien at 3,200 against Robbie Ray. He's just so cheap now. I think we can start price enforcing that. Jeff McNeil, he's extremely cheap. We do love the Met stack today, so I don't mind him. I think that again, I think this Tiger stack is super interesting, so I really don't mind taking some GPP shots on Gleyber Torres.
Yeah, like those Tigers myself today, and you mentioned McNeil. Important to note if you're only playing on the weekends or whatever, the Mets have gotten Alvarez and McNeil back over the last few days, so getting their full kind of expected opening day lineup kind of back out there as we hit the end of April. Will, second base.
Yeah, man, second base. Obviously the Cardinals, and the Cardinals have two options at second base. Today cards, which is very interesting. You can get Donovan there, or you can get Sagasi. You can get what's that?
So it's the JC.
Sagasi. Yeah, you can get the JC there as well, which is pretty interesting. Or you can get Gorman. So like, and I know Donovan and Sagasi, you can flip flop between short and second base, but the fact they have 3 options in the same game against what I consider to be one of the best spots for bats today. I know their total doesn't say it, Cards, but I just know Quinn Priester should get shelled today. Just make the call, tell the Cards, don't make me look like an idiot, and I think we'll be fine at the end of the day. So I want to mention them because I like having 3 options. I do think it's just fantastic. I think that's great. You got Matt McLean, who started out the season, in fuego, Cards and Tim, and against Cincinnati, I'm perfectly fine with that. Those are some of my favorites. You go to the Athletics though, and they got Luis Arias here. He's at second or third, but as part of a cheap part of your stack, especially if you're trying to get Luzardo. I think somebody mentioned the Athletics lineup got weaker. On paper, yeah, it did, but having that salary relief, I think, could pay off dividends, huge dividends in the end. So like them, and then of course, if you want to play Gleyber Torres, fine with him also, because I do like this spot for the Tigers.
All right. Lots of options there for the Cardinals today. With Gorman, it always comes down to whether or not he can hit the ball. If he hits the ball, it tends to go a long way. The problem is he doesn't do that very often. But the strikeout, at least he's not facing a high strikeout pitcher today. So he is actually plus 560 to hit a home run. So he's got shorter odds than probably anybody else. Definitely the other 2 guys at that position, but most of the other Cardinals in the lineup today. Let's see. Arenado is 830. There's just not a ton of power in this lineup. New Bar's plus 750. So Gorman's got the shortest home run odds of any of the Cardinal hitters in the lineup today, for what that's worth. Will, I will stick with you, and we can move to third base.
Yeah, so third base is where it's interesting for me, Cards, because I am interested in one-off outside of stacks from here. 2 of them in the same game, Devers and Ramirez, if you can get them in. I know the weather's cold here, but, both of these pitchers are having their struggles against lefties. So, like both of those guys, those are 2 I definitely think you could get in there. I'm okay with Jordan Westburg also. If you're into the Tigers like I am, Cards, Jace Jung, 2,300. This is a spectacular price for a third baseman that I actually like inside of a stack. So definitely like him. Obviously, I'm going to mention Nolan Arenado for St. Louis. If you want to get him in. If you want to get Marte from the Reds, he's at the bottom of the lineup, but he's 3,800. I think he's fine. But those are mainly the guys that I want to play on today's slate. I'm going to stick around these stacks and hope that I'm right.
All right, Tim, what do you got at third today?
Yeah, Marte is definitely going to be your cash game guy today. I really don't mind a one-off of Devers. I don't mind a one-off of Wilmer Flores. I like Matt Chapman quite a bit today as well. Miguel Vargas, if you really need a punt, I don't mind that at all to fit in some of these Mets and or Reds. I think this is a pretty decent one-off spot. Obviously, Jose Ramirez is always a very, very strong one-off. I don't mind some of these third basemen, but I think Marte is definitely going to be your cash game option.
Yeah, I do like Marte. Recently returned from being suspended and has some pop, has hit well since he's come back. So definitely fine with him, even hitting lower in that Cincinnati lineup. At Coors today, the under 4K, not a whole lot of the Reds guys are under 4K, under DraftKings. If you're targeting Boston, Devers with the lefties against Ben Lively, lefty power, projects well against him. So don't mind using Devers if you want some Boston exposure. All right, we got about 20 minutes to go until lock. Again, we're just with the slate starting a little bit later now. With the Yankees game being postponed, we'll probably just cut it off once we get through the content and run out of questions. So if you do have questions, start throwing them into the live stream chat in the RotoGrinders Discord. Again, rotogrinders.com/Discord. Live stream chat channel will get your questions answered there. All right, shortstop, deep position at the top as usual. Tim, I'll stay with you. What do you like at short today?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much starts and ends with Ellie De La Cruz for me at shortstop. He's clearly your cash game priority today. If you don't want to eat that much chalk, I think going to Lindor is completely fine. Obviously, I do think CJ Abrams is okay as a pivot. Same thing with Gunnar Henderson. So, I mean, shortstop is absolutely loaded today, but I am going to be playing Ellie today just because I cannot fade him in Coors Field in this spot. I would not be spending down at short today. I would prioritize getting to one of these premium shortstops, even if you don't want to play Ellie.
All right. That drink I took there went down the wrong pipe. So I'm going to struggle with the cough here for a second. But Tim or Will, I'll throw it to you at shortstop.
Yeah, for sure. Ellie up top. Once again, guys, don't mind me. I just typically don't play Coors Field now, and that's probably going to change a little bit as DFS gets a little different. But typically they've been priced up, but Ellie's been priced up all year, so they really haven't had to push him too much. But I do think Ellie's a great play here. If you want to play Gunnar Henderson against Casey Mize, I'm okay with that. If I was spinning up, I'm probably going to side with Lindor, getting about a $1,300 discount. Really like the Mets today. Also, you can get Donovan there. We talked about Donovan and Pagasi. I'm messing it up. I'm not looking at the names. I'm just calling up the guys that I like. Maybe I should just look at the names and then I'll know. Sajasi. You can get him there as well in the 6-hole today at 2,800 on DraftKings. So definitely like that. But I think those are the main guys for me. If you want to get to Trey Sweeney in the Detroit game, be my guest. I wouldn't fight you on it just because he's part of that stack. But all in all, I'm siding with those main guys.
All right, tough to spend down at this position. I mean, there's just so many top end guys that are going to project well. Ellie and Lindor, I think clearly the top two today. Lindor's been smashing everything the last couple of weeks. Ellie against a low strikeout pitcher in Coors Field is probably the best matchup you could ask for. And those two guys will probably be the highest owned by a pretty good margin. So those other guys, Henderson, Abrams, you're going to get lower ownership on those guys today if you are interested in that for GPPs. All right, one more position to go here. Outfield, a little bit tougher today. A lot of the high-end guys, of course, Aaron Judge game has been postponed. The Cubs guys, the Phillies guys that normally dominate the high-end discussion, they've got bad weather conditions today. So, Will, I'll stick with you. What do you like in the outfield?
All right, so what I'm going to do here, before I talk about some of my stats, guys, I'm just going to kind of talk about people that I like. So, look, I haven't talked about a whole lot of Angels, but, I mean, if you're going to play one guy, wouldn't it be Mike Trout at 5,900 against Simeon Woods Richardson? So, don't mind Trout today. I know the weather, like I said, it's a little cooler, but I'm perfectly okay with you getting to a guy like Trout. In the Athletics game, you can get Soderstrom in the outfield. I'm okay with him. You can get Rooker in the outfield. I'm okay with him. You can get J.J. Bleday in the outfield. Perfectly fine with him also. Obviously, these Detroit outfielders, you can get McKinstry there, or at third, Riley Greene, Kerry Carpenter. These are guys I definitely want to get in there. Stephen Kwan against Tanner Houck. Perfectly fine with him. Perfectly fine with Jalen Duran against Ben Lively. Once again, these are some of the one-off pieces that I like or love today. And then you get down to, who you want to side with in Coors Field. And obviously, I think, Toaster Friedel, the guy that people are going to want to play. You got Gavin Lux, you got Austin Hayes. Like you just got guys in these games that you want to stack. Soto in the outfield, Nimmo in the outfield, Winker in the outfield. Just so many options. And so I think if you're building around those guys or those teams that you think can get there with a few one-offs, you should be setting yourself up for some success.
All right, Tim, what do you like in the outfield today?
Yeah, so I think Juan Soto is a clear top play today. TJ Friedel, I think, can definitely be used as part of a red stack as well. I don't mind Brenton Doyle. I think he's a really strong play for Colorado today. Don't mind going back to Byron Buxton. Same thing with Jordan Beck. Jordan Beck's a really nice value today, even in 100 green teams. Austin Hayes is part of this Cincinnati team as well. Brandon Nimmo, I think, is way too cheap at 3,900 for this matchup. So I think he's strong. We haven't talked much, I don't think, for the Rangers. So guys like Wyatt Langford and Dallas Garcia, I think, are really strong plays for GPPs. But yeah, I mean, outfield is always super, super loaded. Getting to guys like, Jaron Dern, I think as a one-off is pretty interesting, just as a contrarian piece. And I also don't mind Luis Robert at 4K. So I don't want to go crazy with the White Sox, but I think getting some one-offs with them is okay.
Sounds to me like Tim loves the White Sox.
I don't know. I'm thinking about punting with a couple of them, but I'm not sure.
All right. Yeah, I mean, you do need some salary relief at some spots today, and the White Sox are basically cheap across the board. If you're not into Tanner Houck, Nolan Jones is hitting second for Cleveland today. He's 3K. Once had a pretty good power surge. Of course, that was when he was with the Rockies. Hasn't done much since getting traded to Cleveland, but he is hitting second today. Kierstad for Baltimore is hitting fifth. I'm just trying to find some guys that are in good lineup spots that might be cheap. Beck for Colorado is hitting second today at 3,400. That's most of them, and I think we do have at this point all the lineups, maybe except for Texas. So for the most part, you should be able to finalize those lineups. I'm going to pull open the YouTube chat here in a second, but again, preferred if you drop your questions in the live stream chat of the RotoGrinders Discord. If my mic goes haywire when I open the YouTube chat, I will refresh the page and come back. But Alan in the Discord wanting to know, how to get a hold of me for tax talk. So I do all my tax stuff. I work for a separate firm for taxes, independent of RotoGrinders. But if you have a tax question, you can reach out to me on X, Twitter, what do you want, whatever you want to call it. STL Cardinals 84, same username on X. But he wants to know, Kerry Carpenter okay for a one-off on DraftKings? I think we're all kind of in on the Tigers today. So Will, you okay with Kerry Carpenter?
Oh yeah, no doubt.
All right, I'm pulling open the YouTube chat now. So again, Steve, mute me if I go haywire here. Sometimes that happens. Let's see. First thing I see is Aaron Judge BVP discussion. That game's been postponed anyway. Home run call is another thing that Steve had mentioned there in the YouTube chat. So I mentioned earlier, like the Cardinals are all like plus 600 or greater. So I do kind of like them today. Wilson Contreras would maybe be my pick. Tim, any taters today?
Nope, but I will. I'll look at that really quick.
Find the taters. Go to Idaho. Find the taters. Will, got any home run calls today or other bets? I know sometimes you like to do the pitcher strikeouts.
Yeah, definitely. I think I wrote this one up. We were getting a little bit of juice on it, but I just felt like, Cars, it was still the right play. I took Kikuchi over 5.5 today. I think at the time the juice was around, I think the odds were around minus 148. Listen, you paid some juice, but I thought that was, I think it was worth it. You also had him at 6.5. I'd be willing to go over 6.5. I think you would get that with a plus money. I can't remember what it was at the time. Let me just go and see. I wrote him up. I think I wrote Hunter Greene up over 7.5 for Greene. I think you were getting that at plus money also this morning when I
That's a big number. I can't remember a guy being 7.5 at Coors.
Yeah. So I wrote that one up too. Kikuchi, Greene. Luzardo. I was able to get him at 5.5 cards. That was I just thought that was a whole strikeout too low. So I took him at over 5.5 also. So either of those I was feeling pretty good about.
I did just bet Spencer Torkelson plus 550 on DraftKings, so that's one tater so far.
Torkelson tater. Let's see. Jay Pintar is asking for NBA thoughts without Garland. I have not played an NBA contest all season. I am staying in my lane. No NBA here, but I know Tim had passed it along. Tim, did you do any NBA stuff today?
Yeah, Bimeport and I just did a show right before this show.
On perfect.
So Ty Jerome is going to be a really, really strong points per dollar play today at 4,300 on DK. Also, that should improve Mitchell and Mobley's usage quite a bit. But I think Jerome is the priority play. Even with Merrill starting, Jerome should still be the priority play.
Some home run calls in the YouTube chat. Stephen Kwan, Brian Reynolds, Buxton. A couple people on Buxton today. I don't bet the home runs too. I do like the Angels today. Woods Richardson he's basically just a league average pitcher. The Angels have been top 5 in the league in ISO against right-handed pitching all year. I know we didn't expect this, right? We didn't expect the Angels to be this elite offense, and they're probably not, but they've got some power from the right side. Soler, obviously Trout, Ohapi, Taylor Ward. I like all those guys today. So wherever you can find the most favorable odds on some of those Angels guys for home runs, I kind of like those as well. We've had some people asking for pitching recap, DraftKings single entry. Which 2 pitchers would you take? I'll let you both take a shot at answering that. Will, 1 entry, DraftKings GPP. What are your 2 pitchers?
I'll just tell you what I have, cards. And right now, I couldn't quite get to Luzardo, even playing cheap offenses. I probably would have had to just play everybody cheap. I'm saying I'm rambling and not answering your question. It's Kikuchi and Greene. Sorry, that's who I have. I have Kikuchi and Greene.
Tim,
I think it's Kikuchi and Greene, or Kikuchi and Ben Brown.
That'd be the ultimate cheap if you're going Kikuchi and Ben Brown. Again, it depends on who you like for stacks, obviously. But I have in my 1 entry tournament that I entered, I did get to Luzardo with Kikuchi. But totally understand. I mean, if you're playing the Reds or Mets, you're probably not getting to Luzardo, and that's fine. All right. Let's see. Tiger's good for a full 5-man stack. I certainly don't hate it. Would maybe try to stick to 3 or 4, but I do kind of like the Tigers today. Anybody in on Jeffrey Springs? And I put this in my article today. Jeffrey Springs is interesting because his numbers aren't very good. He got injured a little bit in his last start, but he is facing the White Sox today. I mean, Tim, do you got any takes on Springs?
I mean, he's okay. I mean, obviously playing the White Sox is you're always in play, but I don't really love him.
Jorge Mateo Will is asking in the chat a DK Cash question. Would you take Soto and Winker or Friedel and Beck?
Soto, Winker for me, but once again, I understand how people feel about their Coors Field, but I like Soto and Winker.
In cash, I think you should be sticking with Coors.
All right. Again, make sure you hit the like button. TJ's not here today to hammer home the point. Hit the like button. We're at 54 likes. I'm not gonna, get on my knees and beg, but hit the like button because TJ's not here, and we're not going to have as many thumbs up as we would have if TJ was here, because I dropped the ball and just now said that for the first time, as opposed to TJ mentioning it. Certainly would have mentioned it by now. So sorry, letting TJ down, but hit that thumbs up button. We do appreciate that. All right. We're pretty much through everything. I'm trying to see as any additional questions filter in. There's nothing in the Discord. I know it's early. Chris Longo, how about Male at 9,100 on FanDuel? No chance I'm paying 9,100 for Tyler Male. That BABIP is going to come down at some point. I think I'd stack the Giants before I do that.
Yeah.
Anything else before?
I don't really like Male that much. Yeah. Question: I have McNeil for second base. Is that good for single entry? Yes, I think that's fine. Mets are a good play today.
Andrew says, are you fine with anybody 1 through 9 for the Cardinals? Obviously would try to lean towards the top of the order. Victor Scott is hitting 8th. He does have 9 steals, so he's got a ton of speed. Pajes, if you need a catcher. So those are the guys farther down in the lineup. They're certainly okay, but if I'm stacking them, I'm trying to make sure I get Newbar, Donovan, one of the second basemen, Contreras, who's pretty cheap on DraftKings in there. Will, anything else from you? Somebody asking about
No, I'm good, man. Just hopefully I win all the money today, Cards. I love that. That'd be great.
And no Casey Mize for me today. I did bet the Tigers. I do like them to win, but not a lot of strikeout upside for him. Steve is asking in the chat to Tim if the Lightning get the win today.
I hope so, because I hate the Panthers.
Shannon is asking about Woods Richardson. See, he's cheap and the Angels stink. That the Angels don't stink. Their lineup is a lot better than many people think. They've been top 5 in ISO against right-handed pitching. The Angels are not as bad as a lot of people still think they are. They may not be as good as they were in the early going, but they're not that bad. So not in on Woods Richardson for me. All right. J3 says Dean's Panthers look great so far, to be fair. That's right. We've got the classic Tim versus Dean hockey. Lots of sports going on right now. Hockey playoffs, basketball playoffs, NFL draft. I forgot to look to see if Sanders has been drafted yet. I imagine I would have gotten 8,000 notifications from somewhere. If he has, he has not. So we're on pick 121. The Steelers are coming up in a couple of picks, so we'll see if Sanders goes off the board. Does look like quite a few running backs have been taken this afternoon, but 121st pick of the draft, and still no Shedeur Sanders. So, all right, with that, we made it pretty darn close to the lock. We'll consider that a W. With the Yankees game getting postponed there. Otherwise, we would be locking in 1 minute. With that, we'll call it a day. I will try to get to a couple of these questions still filtering in the YouTube chat. I can just answer them in the chat themselves. So thanks as always for joining us, everybody. We're going to go ahead and dart out of here. Thanks to Tim. Thanks to Will. Thanks to Steve for filling in for TJ, producing here on the weekend behind the scenes. We hope you all have a great one. Plenty of sports to follow, and we'll catch you back here later. See you, everybody.